Welcome to the online component for Empowering Social Studies Teachers for Smarter Balanced Assessment for the month of November. Our objectives this month include briefly going over how to do the group work that you'll be required to do this month. We will talk a little bit about upgrading items and what needs to go into that. You'll respond to one Edmodo prompt, how are you feeling about all of this? And to finish, you will take a current assessment item and post that on Edmodo. Then you will upgrade it and post your upgraded item on Edmodo, and you will comment on other group members' work. The very first thing we're going to do is show you how to go about interacting with your group. I've created a dummy account for the purposes of showing you how to go about doing this part. When you log into Edmodo, underneath your notifications, you'll see if you have any late assignments. Now, if you did not turn your assignment in by actually clicking on the Turn In button, don't worry about this notification here. If you replied to your homework, we have your response and you have been marked as having completed the assignment. To view your group and to view the resources for this particular course, underneath your profile picture, underneath latest posts, direct assignment by teacher, click on ESSTSBA. If something else pops up underneath it, that means you've been sorted into a group. If there's nothing below that, that means you have yet to be sorted. When you've clicked on ESSTSBA here, you get to see every post that anyone has put out there to the group as a whole. But when you click on your small group, you see things specific only to your small group. And here are some of the things you can do. If you have a question for the other teachers within your group, you can simply type it, make sure that it's going to the person you want it to go to, and click on Send. It will then pop up and people can reply. Now, as for your homework, you have one of two options. You can either reply and type your response here, or you can click on Turn In and upload a file by clicking File and choosing the one that you want and clicking on Turn In Assignment. If you mess up, you can always resubmit, and you can type any additional comments you want. Now, for a lot of the personal homework assignments, you can feel free to do it this way. But for November's work, you're going to do two things. You're going to post an item, and you're going to post an upgraded item. To do that, when you get to the appropriate homework assignment, go Original Item and copy and paste it in or type it in, and then Upgraded Item and put all of that in there as well. The reason why we're asking you to share it out this way is so that people will be able to take a look at what you've posted and comment on it. Not comment in a critique like, that's a terrible question, I can't believe you put that up there, but comment on it like, wow, I didn't think that by just adding a passage and upping the DOK a little bit that I could end up with a Smarter Balance-like prompt, but what I see from you makes it look a lot easier than I had initially intended. That would be some kind of a decent response to the questions we're going to ask this month. As far as the resources go, there are a slew of resources on this side of the screen, underneath folders, Choose Your Own Adventure, class handouts, etc. Today you're going to need the Choose Your Own Adventure folder, which has a Choose Your Own Adventure PowerPoint. You're also going to need the Item Write-In Guidelines folder, which has a handout from the Mac board, which I will talk about in just a moment. As always, if you have any questions with Edmodo this month, please direct them to me either via email at david.johnson@wmisd.org, or you can send me a note in your group by simply typing it in the Type a Note box. You can also do this on the main ESSTSBA page if you don't have a group, which would probably be why you would be contacting me to begin with. We're going to talk briefly now about upgrading an item. This is going to be the bulk of your work for this particular month. To upgrade an item, there are some things you need to take into consideration. Let's start with this question. This question could come from a 5th grade test bank or an 8th grade test bank. How did the first Americans come to America from Asia? They came in sailing ships, brought as slaves, followed the land bridge, or both B and C are correct. Now, I say this could come from an 8th grade because a lot of 8th grade history teachers do tend to do a quick review of the material that was covered in 5th. This is a DOK level 1. It's not going beyond recall, and in this particular case, the students either know this fact or they do not. So, as we go about figuring out how to upgrade items that we currently have, there are some considerations to take into mind. The first is a Choose Your Own Adventure PowerPoint, which you may be familiar with from the previous month. Now, this PowerPoint has really just taken information from the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium and put it together in a format which has most of the information you need right up front. Starts off, of course, with things to keep in the forefront when designing a test item. Make sure the question addresses the standard, obviously. Make sure that you target the appropriate levels of DOK. Remember, it's okay to have a DOK 1 question, but you also want to start incorporating more of DOK 2, 3, and 4 whenever possible on your selected and constructed response items. Make sure the language is clear and concise. Use correct grammar. Avoid formatting mistakes. Avoid the use of negatives. Avoid clues in the stem. Make sure all the distractors are plausible. Make sure they're roughly equal length. Make sure the options are organized if you're using a passage, and make sure that they have only one correct answer. Looking back at this recall question, you can see that the answer choices are relatively the same in length, but there are some issues with the question itself in terms of some of the other characteristics. Moving on with the Choose Your Own Adventure PowerPoint, if you wish to create a selected, constructed, or performance task item, there are other considerations to take into effect. So if you click on the appropriate one, you'll be taken to how to develop an item based off of the qualifications you pick. And you can always go back if you need to. This handout, also available in Edmodo and created by the Michigan Assessment Consortium Board, contains other item guidelines, and you'll notice that most of them overlap with the previous slide that I just showed you. For example, standard stem alignment. Making sure that the question actually lines up to the standard that's being assessed. Targeting the appropriate depth of knowledge level. And here's where this handout is especially helpful, as it contains an example of not yet, and this is much closer to where you should be trying to go. Use of clear and concise language. Using correct grammar. Avoiding generalizations. Avoiding tricky items and synonyms. Unnecessary complexity and formatting. Stuffing the stem, avoiding redundancy, avoiding the use of negatives, and avoiding clues in the stem. Using plausible distractors and foils, using equal length and details, making all distractors equally attractive, and organizing the options. Having only one correct answer and not using overlapping answers. We recommend that you print this item out for the November homework, as it will come in very handy as you try to upgrade an item from your current test bank to make it more Smarter Balanced-like. Now let's take a look back at our original assessment item. How did the first Americans come to America from Asia? In upgrading this item, I have taken into consideration many of the things from the MAC materials as well as the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. And now I am pleased to unveil this question, which has been upgraded. It includes, first of all, a stimulus text, and the DOK level has been increased from level 1 to level 2. It also includes the distractor analysis down at the bottom. Take a minute to read this. Let's look at this new item now with our favorite handout, the Depth of Knowledge Ocean, in hand, as well as the handouts from MacBoard. First, in looking at the Depth of Knowledge level, this item has been updated from level 1 to level 2. Level 1 was basic recall, a fact that they either remembered when they sat down to take the test or not. Now in this particular case it becomes a level 2 because not only do they have to know what answer they're looking for, but they also have to interpret it from the information provided within the passage. Going further down the handout from the Michigan Assessment Consortium, the language is much clearer, although there's more of it on the page, and correct grammar has been followed. We've avoided generalizations with this question, and it is not unnecessarily complex. The formatting is kept similar throughout. It's not redundant, it avoids the use of negatives, and it avoids clues within the stem itself. The distractors and foils are plausible. The options are organized in the order in which they were used within the passage. They do not overlap, and there is only one correct answer. So in this particular case, we have successfully upgraded an item from DOK level 1 to level 2. At this point, we invite you to go into Edmodo and respond to your one prompt for this month. How are you feeling about upgrading an item to be more Smarter Balanced-like? Please pause the video here and return when you're done. At this point, all that remains for your homework this month is to post an original item. The item is going to first be posted as non-Smarter Balanced-like, and will go through the upgrade process, and then you will post again with your new Smarter Balanced-like item. You will post these items in your small groups online, and you will comment on each other's items within those small groups. So here's what we've covered this month. We covered how to view and access your resources in Edmodo, as well as how to view and access your groups. Remember, if you still have not been sorted into a group, please send an email to me at david.johnson@wmisd.org. We've also gone over some general guidelines for upgrading items. Coming up next month, because you have now completed November's online component, you have no homework between now and the next session, unless you'd like to get back on Edmodo and write a note about how the upgrade process went and how the upgraded assessment item went when you used it in your classroom. We hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. Do not forget to record 3 hours on your SBCEU log sheet, and just know that next month, while we won't be able to show you the new standards yet, as they have been temporarily delayed, we have come up with a process that will get you thinking in the same way that the people who have been writing the standards are thinking. So next month, we'll prepare you for new standards. Have a great November.